I think most everybody got here now. Uh, Tom Moe isn't going to be joining us tonight. He had something else going on. So we're going to talk a little bit about bills that we've got going on in the legislature right now. And the first one we're going to talk about is Senate Bill 2142. As it's written, last session we got 50% of the motor vehicle excise tax dedicated to transportation. And of that, we got 25% of it that was used for the Flex Fund set-aside grants. It was $43 million. It was used for grants for counties and townships outside of the oil patch. Now, Senator Wanzek has introduced Senate Bill 2142 to take the other remaining half, and of that, 25% would go to non-oil townships based on maintained miles. The other 75% would go to the DOT Flex Fund. And we've got a hearing coming up on that on Friday, the 17th at 9 o'clock in the morning. So that's where we're going to put a lot of effort into that. Right now, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow when the governor releases his budget. He may rain on our parade. I don't know. It remains to be seen what will happen there.
What is Senator Weber's bill?
2142.
2142? Oh,
That's right.
got it. Yep, thanks.
Anybody have any questions on that? Todd, you got anything to add?
No, well, this is pretty big time for us townships. So if you know anybody on the transportation committee, I'd appreciate you reaching out to them and tell them how important this is to us. And if we're successful in getting these funds, it's kind of a nice steady stream of funding for township roads. And it will add to the payment that we're getting for the miles that you certify through the county, which in turn certifies them through the state treasurer's office. So this is a kind of a big event for us. So it's 9 o'clock, I think, is the hearing on Friday morning. So watch it or do whatever it takes. If you know some of those representatives on the senators on the transportation, be nice if you'd reach out to them and tell them how we need their support for this, because it's critically important that we kind of work towards a steady funding stream for maintaining our gravel roads throughout the state of North Dakota.
Anybody else? Any questions or comments?
Larry, is there anything in there, any bill currently that's actually going to work towards the townships in oil producing counties?
I haven't heard that anything's been introduced. What I've heard someone is working on would be to change the definition of an oil producing county to be based on production rather than the dollars in tax. And that will show that there really are only 4 oil producing counties. So remains to be seen if that will do anything. Other than that, I haven't heard of anything going on in the oil counties.
I know there's been discussion sometimes in previous sessions about that there are townships out there in oil producing counties that actually aren't getting the funds that some think they're getting out there either, you know. So,
Right, like I said, there's really 4 producing counties, but there's 8 that are called oil producing counties. Anything else on that? Okay, we've got a bill that was just introduced for us to modify the century code to exempt township officers from the open meeting requirements when they're acting as township staff. When you go out to check your roads, to survey the gravel or when your board members go out and look at a washed out culvert, uh, you're actually violating the open meetings law. So we're going to try to get that exempted. So these on-site inspections will not get you in trouble with the open meetings law. And that's House Bill 1374 was introduced by Representative Larry Clemeen. Any questions on that one?
Good, it's about time, thank you.
Well, we thought it was worth a try.
Yeah. A ridiculous law in these small
Right.
communities.
Right. You know, some of the small cities would like to go on that way too, but one of the stipulations was that the township could not have any employees. And, you know, even a town of 500 people probably has an employee, so they wouldn't qualify for it. But well, we might if we can win it. Anything more on that one?
What's the bill number again?
1374.
1374?
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay, another bill that's being drafted is to allow a township to restore their zoning authority when it's been given to the county, but the township wants it back. The bill is being drafted to be introduced by Senator Jeff Magrum. And we asked that the township would have to go through 3 steps. You need a resolution by the board, and then hold an election at an annual or special meeting, and draft an ordinance. So once you've gone through those steps, the county would not be able to refuse to give the township back their zoning authority. Any discussion on that?
Again, thank you, overdue, great idea. We're very supportive of that, yeah.
Okay, good, I appreciate that. We're working towards trying to get an option for notices to be posted on a website rather than a newspaper, or as an option. As we probably have to start off with, it is still required to put it in the newspaper, but if they don't publish it, then having it on the website would qualify as a notice. We're looking, if we can get it put together, we'd be doing a joint effort with the counties and the League of Cities to get that passed. The counties tried it 2 sessions ago and it failed, but maybe give it another try, see what happens.
Thank you for that, Larry, from Mary.
Okay, you're welcome, Mary, and like I said, I appreciate that. We'll give it a try anyway.
Great.
Any more comments on that one? Okay, some townships have within their bounds a what used to be a city, and the city has dissolved or uh, unincorporated, and in that site, their town site, there are streets and alleys that are no longer used, don't go anywhere, but they're on the map. And once the city has unorganized or unincorporated, there's nobody that has authority to abandon those. So today I asked Senator to look into drafting a bill for us to give the township or county the ability to abandon these unused streets and avenues. And she hopes to have an answer for me in the morning on that. Any questions on that one? For discussion. State bonding fund, we've been trying to get the bonding limit increased to a reasonable appropriate level. Because there are townships that with their special road fund, they have a lot of money in their coffers, and they need coverage to protect themselves from somebody pilfering that. We've been working with the Insurance Reserve Fund on that, and the CEO of that says that House Bill 1026, which will also move the management of the bonding fund from the insurance department to the Office of Management and Government, also changes the coverage and the ability to get a reasonable bonding limit. And there was a hearing on that at 9 o'clock this morning. And we'll just have to see how that works out.
How would the fee structure be discovered, if that's the right word? What would happen to try to develop a fee structure for that? Any idea about that?
I haven't had a chance to really look at the operation of it. There is language in there about providing the coverage, and I'm not sure it may still continue to be free coverage as long as the fund has enough money in it. And so far, anytime the fund is depleted, the legislature has thrown money back into it. So
And that's the state bonding fund as a whole.
that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we also have a township, well, I guess we don't know that anything is gonna happen with this one here. I'll go on to the floodplain management bill, 2027. We had a hearing on that the other day, and the floodplain management authority is part of zoning, but it's separate from zoning actually. The the bill takes the authority away from townships and gives it to the county. But if the township really wants it, they can pass a resolution and go through the steps and get it back. I don't think that any township would really want the floodplain zoning or management authority. But there is a way to get it back. I asked for 2 amendments to it. It was written with requiring the township clerk to report the list of officers and the resolution that the township wants to do the floodplain management. It was written to require that by March 31st of each year. And I informed them that our elections are held in March and may even be on the 31st of March. So we would appreciate it if they change that date to April 30th. And that is part of what they're working on. And the other change I asked for was that we get language in there to make it more clear that a township can give up its floodplain management authority without impacting their zoning authority. Because some of the counties seem to think that it was both or nothing. And they were going to use that to try force the township to give up their zoning authority along with the floodplain management. And they're going to develop language to make that more clear that the two are not tied together. Any questions on floodplain management? It is a purely voluntary thing. The township and county do not have to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. However, if they don't, nobody in the county or township would be eligible to buy the coverage. So, they would have to go to the private sector, which is a lot higher priced insurance than the National Flood Insurance Program. Any discussion on that? Okay, this morning they had a hearing on 1176, which is the governor's property tax relief and reform bill. And there was a whole lot of testimony in favor of it. And it's just a couple of people that opposed it. I opposed it because we're concerned that townships that have a very low levy, and when they finally realize they need to increase their levy, are going to have a hard time increasing their levy. And it's going to be a long, drawn out process for that bill. Actually, a lot of the committee doesn't like the bill because it's got a $600 million price tag. So spending a lot of money that it's going to be taken away from infrastructure and all the other things we need. So, any discussion on that?
Does anybody there that's a proponent of it have a clear thought out plan of how to replace the income if it doesn't come from that?
It would be coming from mostly from legacy earnings.
But I thought they're already depleting that and depleting the principal. that was on the last ballot, that we restricted the politicians from taking more than 20% of the principal of the legacy funds every year. Cause they've been rating that just kind of like our social security, the way I understood it.
Well, so far they have not taken any of the principal. It's just a percentage of the earnings. And they've been returning a large part of the earnings to the fund. So, helping that grow.
Does it have enough earnings potential to replace the property tax?
Probably not quite. I said this is a $600 million price tag. One of the other options they're talking about is taking the K-12 funding totally out of the property tax. That, however, has a $900 million price tag. The benefit to that, it would benefit all classes of property rather than just the residential.
Larry, was there ever any talk about, I did the numbers on like Maddox School District, 85% of the funding, or the 85% of the value of the Maddox School District is ag land. Pheasant School District, 75% of the valuation is ag land. Harvey is 75% of it is ag land. So I don't know how that goes across the state, but you see when farmers maybe are getting a break on their land taxes, but they're picking up a big tab funding education.
Right. One of the people that spoke in support did mention that one problem they had with it was the disparity between what they're talking about for the residential property is a road to zero. Right now, they'd be increasing the $500 credit to $1,500. And in 2 years, that would probably go to $2,000. And before long, increasing it as the legacy earnings fund increases, the amount of credit would soon replace the residential property tax, leaving them paying no property tax. So when you have a school bond election in your local community, your rural community, you have everybody voting on this on these measures, and only two classes paying the bill. And that doesn't work real well. You just have agriculture and commercial paying the bill, and residential voting for it. So, that's kind of a red flag. So, any more discussion on that?
Larry, on that bill, what actually is in that bill that is going to make it so difficult for the townships to raise their mills if they so wish?
Well, there's a 3% cap limit in there. And, if your township has gone through the excess levy process, so you're up somewhere near 36 mills, it's not going to be a problem. But if you're one of those townships that's been running a very low levy, 4 mills, 7 mills, something like that, you're going to have a hard time increasing that to a point where you can maintain your roads. So a lot of those townships are realizing that you can't maintain your roads and, you know, some of them are looking to increase their levies and it's gonna be difficult for them if this passes.
Did they ever talk
Thank you,
about,
Larry.
did they ever talk about the 12% that was in effect and they took it away? And is there ever any talk of going back to a percentage again?
No, they didn't bring that up today.
So I know there had been talk of a whole bunch of bills that were that potentially deal with property tax issue. What is the word on how those are getting introduced or where they are or how many are introduced already? All that kind of stuff.
We've just gotten a handful of them. The deadline for introducing bills was Monday. Well, actually, they still can introduce bills, but they're limited now. A House member can only introduce 5 bills after Monday, and that goes on for another week, I believe it is. We haven't seen the flood that's been forecast. The hope is that when they got these 2 main bills out here, 1176 and 1168, that a lot of these other legislators would see those bills, you know, realizing that they have a lot of traction being, you know, basically leadership bills. And maybe they'd hold their fire and save everybody a whole lot of time, you know, by not introducing a whole bunch of bills that probably only vary from each other by 1 or 2 words. Any more comments on property tax bills?
I'm sorry, but I don't remember what 1168 was.
Let me see that was here.
School district aid formulas.
Right. That's that was Lauser's bill.
Yeah. Hearing tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Did that raise the foundation aid payment then? On some?
No, this is
Oh.
limiting levy authority and a bunch of other stuff.
Oh.
Anything more on the property tax bills?
Who finally makes the call on the foundation aid payment? That's sometimes done the last day of the last hour of the end of the session too, isn't it?
Well, the governor might spend it all tomorrow. A very real possibility that his proposals will stop a whole lot of other dreams. Hello? Anything else?
Oh. I am not sure what, just a sec here. I'm in the middle of something here. I'll just hang on. Yeah, no livestock meeting. I kind of doubt it. It's. Oh, yeah.
Okay, anything else anybody wants to talk about? Joel, how's things going down in Ellendale?
I'm just trying to unmute there. Things aren't going really great down here. We're city last night voted to annex 300 acres out of our township. And they used the flagpole method, and we tried to get a change to the century code, but haven't been getting much help on it. And wanted to see how that's going. We're going to lose. Right now, I think they figure maybe $3 to $5 million of taxable valuation. We have this data center that's going up in here. They flagpoled a piece of property that's actually 2.5 miles from town, 2 west and a half mile north of Allendale. Kind of like what they call cherry picking taxation. We have 44 and a half miles of land or roads that we have to maintain for the feeders to this place. And we lost all the revenue that we would gain from Applied Digital. It's something where we want to make it so the person who is the first person who has property along the city limits to have to sign onto the bill. This flagpole thing was a 60-foot strip of land that went along Highway 11 to gain access to Applied Digital. The landowners didn't have to sign on because Applied Digital has 75% of the valuation.
Right.
And then last night they didn't. They told us they could have took the whole road, but they didn't. They wanted to do it the simple way. Well, after I got home, I got to thinking is the reason they couldn't do the whole road was because MDU has a substation there, and they wouldn't have the 75% of the valuation of the flagpole.
Yeah, well, it's the same kind of stuff that Grand Forks was doing with the Pupang thing up there a few years back.
Well, this is a complete commercial flagpole.
Yeah,
There's
that
no
was also.
no residential property. And we got shot down last night. And they say they happen all over the North Dakota. Applied Digital has got some pretty good lawyers. You got a $1 billion company. I don't know if you read in the paper today, but they just got a huge influx of money from Australia, and huge company, a lot of lobbyists, and we're up against a big thing here with a small little township, and we're really looking for some support. We have the mayor in town who is really for this, is the tax director and the tax director for the county and the assessor for the city. Kind of a conflict of interest. We have a bill that's kind of wants to know who's got a conflict of interest in all these things too.
Yeah.
I know we all like to go for the support of the getting our tax money for our roads and stuff, but this is a problem that townships or we have, and it could be one that any other township has, and we fight for grassroots government, and pretty soon there's not going to be any grassroots government left. It's kind of scary what's going on.
Right. Well, as the way the law is right now, the township does not have any say at all in an annexation. You're just basically the witness to a train wreck.
Mm-hmm. We've in all of our protests, we've asked for mediation, and we're looking into seeing how that's going to work, but probably isn't. But the city has to, agree to it or whatever.
Yeah,
The city has
Okay.
said they are gonna try to get a joint powers agreement with us, but, we'll see, you know. Applied Digital tells us, they tell us we don't know what we want, but we know what we want, but we don't want to take money that isn't ours, as in tax revenue. We don't want that black cloud hanging over our head that you took some money from this company.
okay.
So, Joel, it's my understanding that the document that you sent over about the conflict of interest, that actually, that language actually is in administrative rules, and that the legislature doesn't act on that. Is that correct, Larry?
That would be my understanding. That goes through the, it's up to the agency to write its rules with the approval of the legislature.
Well, it seems to me that it should almost be something that's with that ethics commission, and it seems like that's been getting taken to the woodshed quite a bit lately too, I think, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, they've got there are legislators that are rather irritated with it, so, yeah. But it's protected by the Constitution, so not a lot you can do about it.
But we'd really like to see if somebody would help support this annexation and inclusion of territory. It's in the century code, so this doesn't happen to anybody. I mean, I get where some neighborhoods have to be annexed to cities to get sewer, water, you know, curb and gutter, but that isn't the place here. The
Right.
place here was just to get the taxes from us to the city. And they tabled it the first time, but last night it was pretty much a slam dunk.
Well, it was a unanimous vote.
Right, for sure.
Joel, can you talk about those miles, those road miles? How is that going to affect? And maybe I've wrote that down. I had 44 and a half miles of your township that would affect your roads. Could you clarify that for me, please? Or
So we have 23 and a half we call primary roads, and they're bladed. Those are our main roads, okay? And then we have 18 and a half miles of secondary roads. You know, we're not opening those in the winter. We blade them maybe 3-4 times in the summer. This year we spent $170,000 on gravel on our roads. And we got that money from fees for permit fees that we charge Applied Digital to get their overloads into their plant. Sounds like a lot of money, but the building probably took over 1,000 loads of heavy cement or precast to get in there.
so this area that they have chosen to annex, so there's a road involved in that, correct?
Right, 87th Avenue. It's a mile and a half of road. Yep. And then when they went by, they took they went by on the east side of the road, and there was a small MDU substation. They annexed that in also. But the strip along the land that goes west of Ellendale is 60 to 75 feet wide. Then it goes north and then across to the west side to get their property.
And the interesting thing about that mile and a half of road is that the entire length is is township on one side or the other. So now it's shared ownership of that road for 1.5 miles between the city and the township.
Well, that was, sorry, Tim, were you done? I'm sorry.
Yes, I am.
Now, I guess that was my question. How was that discussed, or is it not been discussed of how that road will be maintained and who pays for it and at what percentage? Is it a 50-50 repair, and who makes the decisions on what needs to be done?
Well, right now, we have a verbal agreement. You'll see how those work out in court someday with Applied Digital, that they do the maintenance and snow removal on the road.
On just
On that 1.5 miles.
just on that 1.5 miles, huh?
But we also have, around Allendale, we have property where the city has on one side and we have the other side. We share that. We pretty much do the gravel, send them the bill. They've got a pull behind blade that they use for maintaining roads. Doesn't work at all, you know. But this road here, this 87th Avenue, we'd share the first 1/2 mile, and then we would share the second mile. So we have 1.5 miles, then the city would have 1.5 miles. And Applied Digital wants the whole thing. They're gonna fight. They've tried to get the county commission to take the road over, and we've told them we don't want to do that.
Joel, did you get any more word? Was it Ken Moorhead that that talked about something the DOT or the county or somebody was going to take the road? Was there anything concrete about that?
That senator never called him back, I don't think. But we gave a draft of the bill to Representative Greenike. He lives in our district, only about 3 miles from this road or from when this happened. I don't think we'll find out tomorrow. We got a call in for him to see if he's gonna do anything. Probably not.
Joel, you should maybe touch a little bit on the magnitude of the construction phase of this. You know, I thought you mentioned 5 to 10 years, and you mentioned some data of the number of trucks that were driving on that highway and using the gravel roads. I mean, what you mentioned is astronomical. Yeah, touch on that for a little bit. It's just, I don't think any one of us would want that in our townships.
Well, I think they were saying last year this could be 3 or 5 years. I'm not positive. You know, I think it all depends on how the economy goes and how this thing goes. But some days this spring they'll haul with 35 trucks constantly for weeks on end. They got when the farmers aren't busy and they got a little side business with commercial plates, they're hauling every load of gravel they can get in there. The gravel pits in the hills look like minefields. They're just, and for the county and the township, we're wondering where we're going to get our gravel in 4 or 5 years. Are we going to haul it 150 miles or 100 miles? Who knows? But these guys are tying up a lot of the pits or all of the pits.
Joel, is there any legitimate estimate as to how much gravel it's going to take to fill in all those cattail sloughs they're building on?
I have no idea. My only comment to those people were, when you're all done, I want to know how much extra this costs to build in these sloughs. They've got 300 acres and they're filling sloughs in, and some of the drain tile pipe drains are sticking out of the ground 4 feet. And there's a lot of fill going in there.
So was there ever any discussion for a haul road agreement with this company, or are they?
No, by the time we got to that, they were already working on annexation, and that was, you know, we haven't heard much from them since they started this annexation process. They petitioned the city to get into the city. So it was annexation by petition, not by resolution. And that's how they can do it with this little bit of strip, because they own 75% of the valuation of that strip. See if I can get my camera on here. Let's see, maybe I can't. I have a map here, but it's just, it's going to be a really hardship for our township. They don't realize that everybody that comes to this place, a lot of them are in Aberdeen, Elm Lake, south of me here. They're all driving on our roads. And, we have to maintain those roads to get there. And we won't get any of the revenue.
No, that's why I was concerned with that haul road agreement, that there should have been something in place to have protected you, prior to construction on it. What about the county? How did they view it? Are they zoned? Is the county zoned?
The county is not zoned. They're working on it now. I was a commissioner for 20 years and it was like nobody ever wanted to do it. And I went to him one day and I said, you guys better get going on this because we're already too late to the game.
Right.
And it isn't that we want to zone these people out. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that, but we want some protection.
Right.
And the way they took this property is just not right. I mean, anything in your right mind, you would say this doesn't look right. But they want it done. The city's going to get a whole bunch of money and is a unanimous vote.
So, Joel, I'm going to make a statement and then you can correct me if I'm wrong. The Applied Digital wants to pave that 1.5 miles of road and some other roads in the neighboring township, but they don't want to wait or pay for the construction to be engineered. And because you were insisting that that be the case, and I believe that the engineering showed that the road was going to be $4+ million, that because you were pushing back, that they were crabby about that. And that's the reason they wanted to take control away from you. Is that an accurate statement?
Well, I don't know if that's accurate, Tim.
Okay.
They did ask us to get a bid for the road. We got that from KLJ, $4,019,000 in that neighborhood. Didn't include any extra right of way or any utilities moving. And sometimes they just think they're going to put asphalt on this road without doing anything. And that was part of what we wanted before, is when they took this road and it went through a cattail slough. So there was spots in the spring, farmers couldn't even get their machinery through it. Okay. So they built this road up. So when you build that road up, the ditches get steep, and the township would request that, hey, maybe we better make this road a little safer. And that just never happened. That's where we didn't have anything in writing. It was a verbal agreement and just didn't happen. So then they want this road paved. They want this 1.5 miles paved, in another 3 miles, and another township paved. So they have a bypass around Ellendale. 2 miles of this road for sure were 2-track roads 2 years ago, with the grass growing in the middle almost. Not quite that bad, but yeah, it's something. And most of the time they want to put turning lanes in the highway, and we got blamed for that, but that's a state highway. We got nothing to do with that. We can't say yes or no on that. We wouldn't. You got all these trucks pulling in there, and yeah, it's a traffic hazard. Yeah, it is.
Did I understand right? Did they actually build the roads through a cattail slough?
Well, they just kept hauling the gravel in there and dumping it on there, and all of a sudden you got a tall road, a high road.
Were there any wildlife easements or anything like that on that?
Well, I'm not positive on that, but what I've been told is that they didn't have to worry about it, or maybe they mitigated it somewhere else, or there was no easement supposedly on that property. So they're filling, as farmers, if we go out there with a loader bucket full, NRCS is there.
Right.
These guys are there. And then we have no idea where the water's gonna go.
Yeah,
They have a plan, but they won't tell us.
that
So
was,
it's-
that was my thought as well. Normally, you can't do much with them wetlands if they're in any type of program, and that's why I wondered how they were getting by. From what I've always been told is that if they're doing that, if a contractor is able to do it, they do have to purchase land, mitigate, yeah, somewhere else, and they claim it's quite expensive, but for a company like that, I suppose they're not concerned about the cost on it, so.
Well, that seems like the thing is here is that anything they just throw money at, you know? They asked us what we wanted and like, what's your snow removal? I said, varies. Well, we'll pay for it. Well, we don't want that cloud hanging over our head that we took that money from you that, for snow removal that we really didn't have coming. And we had to put up minimum maintenance road signs because some of their trucks get lost. They go on our back roads and they get stuck and do the damage to the road. Well, then they say, well, we can't go after the subcontractors because you didn't have minimum maintenance road signs up. Then our emergency manager tells us you put that minimum maintenance road sign up, you're not eligible for FEMA on those roads. I don't know if that's a fact or not, but that's what he told us. So
I
one way
believe
or
that's
the other,
correct.
we're in trouble,
So I was given a newspaper article today that says Applied Digital Corporation entered into a $5 billion perpetual preferred equity financing facility with somebody that I can't pronounce. $5 billion perpetual preferred equity financing facility. I don't know what facility means, but that's a lot of money. And that their stock jumped more than 20% on NASDAQ this morning.
Facility is their huge building, 300 and some thousand square feet. Right now, they have plans to build 2 more buildings. One of them rumor is it's going to cover 20 acres. So the thing is, when you cover 20 acres with cement, like in cities, where's the water go? Now the water's going to go to the farms.
Also, this really doesn't pertain, but I was told that it was a 200 megawatt facility, and the article talked about it being a 400 megawatt facility. That's huge. That's twice the size of Bismarck, Mandan, and the refinery.
So our township right now is working on a zoning plan. We tried to zone in September. Applied Digital came and pretty much ran us out of the room pretty much because we weren't ready to do it. We thought we worked with South Central Regional Council. We thought we could get it done, and we didn't. But now we're working on a plan that we're going to I'm hoping we'll get it done here in February, March. And the problem there is we got CO2 pipeline will go south of my house. Wind farms will go in our township, and there's rumor of a solar farm going there because they need different sources of power. When the power goes out, they call it hospital grade power to run these places. So it's got to be really clean. So they want wind farm, solar farm, and the stuff that comes over the power lines. So we have all these things coming into our township. And when this all started, I looked at whoever got run over the first time, and I thought, well, I remember McKenzie County had the oil boom, so I went and looked at their zoning. We tried to implement some of that in there, and yeah, it's a mess. Problem is once we lose this valuation, they tried to get this annexation done in December. They tried to get it done quickly so that the city would get the tax money in this year, but they didn't get that done. They tabled it. So the township will get the tax money this year. But now the way it went last night, we won't after that. So we're at 18 mills right now. So maybe we're gonna have to go to 36 to keep providing the same services to our residents who just gained a new neighbor by Applied Digital moving to our township.
And if 1176 passes, you're gonna have a hard time expanding your levy.
For sure. And in our defense is we were getting along really good with 18 mills. I mean, doesn't sound like much or whatever, but we have people that drive our township and say, you guys got the best road. You got roads better than the county roads. And they are, and that's the way we want to keep them. But it's going to be hard when you have that much traffic on your infrastructure.
What about public access to that public road, 1.5 miles past Applied Digital?
Well, they can't keep you from driving down there, but the farms, we farm a quarter that's right on the other end of it, and we will not drive our machinery down that road. They probably, I don't know how many loads of chloride they dumped on that road. Your car probably be rusty by the time it got to the north end. So we drive around and we're trying to fix up the go around roads. It's expensive to do, $60,000 to $90,000 for 1.5 miles for a mile, 60,000 for a mile to get them so the water runs and there's no low spots and things like that. They do have a flag man there. He stops you all the time. They want to try to get the trucks to stop. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know if that road probably would have a 22-foot top maybe on it, maybe. But it's pretty much, you go off the edge, you're done. I mean, you're in the cattails. What one of our residents is worried about now that the flagpole went by, once they get that another one of those buildings up or whatever, then they can come by and take his property along with it. He's probably got 5 quarters of land that, well, they got 5 quarters they could take of his to get there. City of Allendale's kind of running out of spots to build. This company's building 20 houses in town. They moved these houses in. They're going to build 20 more. I don't know if this Applied Digital can ask for a TIF district once they get out there. Maybe. I would think they could. That isn't going to affect us now being there. It's annexed.
Well,
So go ahead. Sorry.
That'll cut the benefit to the city though.
Right. They just told us the reason our mills are 18 and the city is 93.96. They're having such an impact on the city that they want to give them the extra tax money. And they want to cut us out. And probably just let you know, Larry, you're recording this meeting tomorrow. You'll probably get a request to give them the minutes. We notify their attorney for Now it's in century code for a year. We have to send her an email when we're getting together to have a conversation. And that's all fine. I mean, we're not hiding anything. We have in our zoning that we're trying to do, Applied Digital has a representative sitting there for 3 hours for 2 days now, and then we're going to meet again here on the 20th of January. Just to make sure we don't do something that's gonna affect them. So I guess that's what I know, Larry.
Okay, well,
We, like I said, we'd really like some help on finding somebody to, or the townships to get by this. You know, I'm reading our mission statement or whatever for what we do, and that's what we do. We help townships, and it's at the legislature. This isn't,
well,
this bill that we put together, our attorney did it, and it's not something to stop this. It just got to have some guidelines to it. You know, you're not going 2.5 miles. Allendale doesn't even, they have extra territorial area of 1/2 mile,
right,
and that's by century code. They don't even have any more than that. I think the bigger cities have like up to 2 miles, but whatever. I mean, they're way out of their league there on that.
well, of course, they'll get a 1/2 mile around that.
Oh,
Around that
that-
flagpole.
Right, and see, that's what the landowners are worrying about is then that gets, is that gonna get city tax then or not, you know?
No, the tax district does not go along with the extraterritorial district, but you might get building permit requirements for putting up a machine shed
Right.
on your farm.
Well, we're gonna implement those in our zoning plan, but those would be, the farm buildings would, you know, you might have to apply, but there wouldn't be a cost to it.
Right, but if the city gets extraterritorial authority, they'll
Okay, I got you.
they'll give you a problem on if their rules don't agree with yours.
Well, they're developing their zoning plan right now. They passed this to annex it, and then they're gonna make the laws to govern it after they pass the annexation. Sounds like that's a good governmental way to do things. But yeah, they don't have industrial zoning or anything like that. So they're gonna leave this. The funny thing, or not, it's not really funny. This 300 acres, they're gonna leave, or there's probably 230 acres of it that's, they're gonna leave agriculture land till it's after February 1st. So it'll be taxed at ag land. There's no way you could even drive a planter out in that field. They got it so tore up. Filled in sloughs, drain tile put in. One of the companies made a comment that the drain tile will be so deep it won't even matter it's in there by the time they're done. That's all I got. Like I said,
Okay, well,
really
let
like
me
some
know,
help on that. Find somebody to carry this bill. Bug this Green Ike up there. I mean, he's in our neighborhood. The problem with him is all these guys drink the Kool-Aid and they're all full of it. And that is exactly what the problem is. is Allendale Township is the only one that didn't get the Kool-Aid. And we haven't stopped any construction. I mean, they tell you, oh, this, you made this, you had to get a permit for that, and whatever, but we do approach permits, and that's pretty much the only permit we have as a township.
And the
You-
overweight, oversized permit.
Right, those
the
were, but those are put on by the county, and then we always go on when the county goes on. And those signs we put up for 5-6 years. I mean, it isn't something we just did to get them.
And you now have Load Pass as well, correct? And Load Pass is
Right.
collecting those permits?
Our township, well, they would send me, I'm the chairman, and so they'd send me every morning, we need these permits to get in there, and I went to the county commission and said, hey, I'm getting tired of this, let's get on this Load Pass. I heard a lot about it. We said no before because nobody wanted it as a commission, and it's like, we need this, so we signed up, we got on Load Pass. I think it started in April sometime. And that really worked good for our township. I mean, we didn't have the trucks just go there, and actually the contractors like it
Mhm.
because they know they have the permit. There's no question about it. If somebody questions them, they got the Load Pass permit. It's a great system. And the county commission takes, I think, 15% of our permit fee for handling it. I think
Okay.
when we sent this to Green Ike, we have a supervisor that's been in contact with him, and he's supposed to get back to him tomorrow to see what he wants, if he's gonna help us. I'm not really feeling fuzzy about that either. And you'd really like somebody in your district to help you out, but you know, like I said, they were the ones that brought them to town, and it's probably gonna be good for the community when it's all done. I mean, it's bringing a lot of people to town. I mean, they got 500 people working there, they say, and another 500 coming, maybe. I don't know. There wasn't hardly any planning done on this when it came, you know. This here we are. But I know that January 20th date sneaks up on us really fast. And just because this annexation passed, this can still happen to somebody else's township. And we don't want somebody else to have to do what we have to do.
Right. Well, let me know what you find out from Green Ike.
Well, you can also maybe just give a little looking around tomorrow too. You know, you guys know who to contact. I'm not up there or whatever, so it's something that we could come and testify on. Got 2 other supervisors that are really good. I got a young guy and an older guy, and they're willing to come to Bismarck.
Okay, well, if we can get somebody to, sponsor something like this, we'll let you know.
I think, Larry, you probably have a copy of the
Yes, I do.
okay, yeah, I know you visited with our attorney, so.
Right.
And thank you for getting back to her, Larry, because she said she had a good conversation with you, and she thinks you got understanding of what we really want done and why we need it done.
Right. Yeah, these, it's really frustrating for the townships to look at losing tax base like this, when they go about this, sneak in there with a flagpole or whatever you want to call it, lollipop. It's so dishonest. It's just unbelievable. So, well, let's see if we can do anything with it.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys' time tonight and let me visit with you. And I know, when we came down here, I don't really think anybody really realizes what's going on here. You don't, I mean, you see this building, I live 2 miles from this place and it lights the sky up. And I mean, that you can hear it buzz, but I mean, it's here. We just got to deal with it. But I've toured the building. It's amazing. Whoever figures this stuff out is got to be some kind of engineer. It's supposedly the first of its kind in ever built.
What's different about that one than say the one up at Trenton?
I haven't seen that one. This one is 3 stories high, all precast, the cooling towers, tanks inside, all the battery storage, and they got it full of foam blocks so it doesn't settle. And it's like just amazing. It's really amazing to see it. And all the power lines are going in there. I mean, underground conduit, huge.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the power it requires and the data capabilities of the lines coming in there are a big deal. How do you know how deep they had to go with their piling through all that muck?
I don't know. I see Jerry Rico's on here. He's another supervisor there. He's out at that plant once in a while, so he might know. You know Jerry. Or maybe he left, but anyway, oh no, he's still here. I mean, they pounded pilings all last winter. I mean, I think it was started at deer season, November, because I know it was deer season when they were doing it.
You hear me now, Joel?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I was at a meeting in Jamestown and tuned in and been listening all the way back, and I appreciate the time, gentlemen, and you allow Joel to talk and whatever. But you know, every time we go out to the plant and deal with the porta potties my son has out there and the septic systems we're cleaning out for the system and whatever, there's always a change, always something new, always something different. You know, and like Joel says, I can verbally back up everything he's told you gentlemen tonight. He's 100% correct. And it's just, if we were to wanted to go ahead and build something like this in anywhere else in the world, we'd have to have planning and sessions with people. And if you were going to build this in Bismarck or Fargo, you'd have to meet with planning and zoning and ordinancing and all kinds of things. And because we didn't have it in Dickey County, they just came in and, hey, here we go, let's build it. So it's just really frustrating to be a part of the situation when, you know, we last night at the city council meeting where we were at, the Nick Phillips, the project coordinator, who was on Zoom from Tennessee or wherever. Well, yeah, these guys in Allendale Township, they got this attorney hired, and those attorneys are getting confused and don't realize what they're saying. Well, our attorneys have information and availability to everything that Applied Digital's attorneys have. You know, it's just so demeaning to get run down constantly. So I just don't know what more I can say to not let out my frustrations that I shouldn't.
Jerry, they were wondering how deep the pilings were.
The pilings that they drove last fall were 60 feet down, and there were, for every 4 foot in diameter, there were 16 pylons, from what I was told when I was out there on the fire department tour.
So they got a few pipes in the ground.
And when I was by there yesterday, they're unloading semi-loads of pipe, I-beams that apparently they're, when we were out there, the first Tuesday in December with a fire department tour, they told us that they wanted to start driving pylons before Christmas on the new building, the 20-acre building. They haven't started that yet, but I'm assuming all these I-beams are hauling in there. They're going to start driving pretty soon.
Okay, thank you for answering that.
Not a problem. Anything else, I'll gladly try.
Well, is there anything else anybody would like to talk about?
Larry,
Briefly?
could I ask a couple quick questions from Normanna Township?
Sure, Lynn.
The supervisors worked with zoning to establish a policy forbidding the construction of a solar panel field. Nothing in particular, but just in the event that someone applied. And I'm just a lowly treasurer, so I wasn't a part of that discussion. But when I visited with Tom Moe about this after the fact, Tom indicated that really wouldn't have any teeth, that the supervisors can establish a setback policy, but they really can't disallow the construction of a solar field. And I'm wondering what your experience is with the townships attempting that, and is it worth the time and effort that a township spends on it?
Well, you cannot zone out illegal business. You can restrict where they develop, but you cannot prevent the development.
And the same would hold true for a wind farm also, would it not?
Right, there are setbacks in state law for wind farms. Setbacks from residential property, etc. in state law.
Have any other townships attempted to do what Normanna thinks they have accomplished?
Yes, I believe there are townships that have at least wind farm regulations.
Okay.
I don't have any of them. I don't even know which townships it was anymore that did that.
Okay, thank you, Larry. And one more question, coming from a treasurer who's been doing this for 36 years now. And when I started, I worked with Adler, and I thought it was great. It helped me. But now I have switched over to QuickBooks, and I find it so much more adaptable and flexible and user-friendly. And I just wonder if you have gotten that feedback from any other treasurers or townships, and if you've considered a different program rather than Adler for the treasurer.
Well, the other programs don't do the reports in the format that's required. That's a big difference.
Well, I don't do the Adler format for Cass County when I submit it at the courthouse, but they seem to be very happy, and the beauty of the report is the simplicity of it, particularly at an annual meeting where it's much more clear and understandable than the Adler. And I had some issues with Adler where it grouped together the blading and gravel, which are, I mean, we have a big budget, but those are our two greatest expenses, and they should be separate line items. There should be a separate line item for building permits, on QuickBooks, I can adapt it to whatever style I like, but I thought the Etler was quite rigid in that respect, is it not?
Well, it matches the state report. The state report has the blading and gravel combined.
That's just hard for me to understand
Yeah,
because it's
yeah,
such a
I,
major part of our budget.
right. I'm not real happy with that, but that's the way the report is, that the forms that come out from the state have it combined that way.
Maybe they will ask the treasurers for some feedback and some suggestions, and we can contribute our assessments of it and our thoughts.
Yeah. Well, actually, the problem is that 7 or 8 page report is provided by the Census Bureau. That's where it comes from, that the two are combined on that.
Okay. I know there are neighboring townships here that are working with the QuickBooks program now too. It seems to be spreading, but I guess if I had the input, the necessary input, I'd make it state available. And it's a rather expensive program, and it would be nice if the state would, help us with it, provide it for the many townships.
Right.
But I thank you for your ear on this, for hearing this out.
You're welcome. Thanks for bringing the question.
You're welcome.
Anybody else got any closing
Larry.
comments here?
Yeah, Larry,
Yes.
one
Yes,
quick
Todd.
thing about Senate Bill 2142 on that hearing on Friday. So I think I'm just gonna let you know who's on that Senate Transportation Committee. So if you're in the neighborhood of these state senators, please email them or call them or talk to them about supporting this. And the chairman is Dave Clemens, and I think, Larry, correct him if I'm wrong on these, but I think he's from Fargo.
Yes.
And the vice chair is Senator Claire Corey from Grand Forks. Then we have Senator Jerry Klein from the Fessenden area. Senator Paulson, I think, is in the Minot area district. Senator Dean Rummel is the Dickinson area. And then Senator Kathy Hogan is from Fargo. So did I get that right, Larry?
That sounds right.
So yeah, this is pretty important for us, and we'll be there on behalf of you guys and all townships. So please reach out to these, and that all helps. Believe us, they want to hear from you. So thank you.
And if you're in the neighborhood of the Capitol, or want to drive to town, and even just sit in the audience, we appreciate all the company, and let's make a good effort to support this bill. Anybody else for a closing comment? Well, hearing none, I guess we'll call it an evening. Thank you for coming on.
Is my
Thank
mic
you for
working?
helping us make a worthwhile effort here.
Larry, maybe you just want to remind everyone of the February 18th and 19th.
Yes, local capital connection, local government capital connection is going to be February 18th and 19th. I will be emailing out an agenda with the information on how to register for it. The 2-day event, there's a registration fee for that, $60. There's several programs that'll be held down at the Bismarck Event Center, and a social inviting the legislators and other government heads, agency heads. And it'd be quite an event, a great chance to chat to legislators and present the case for what townships need there. If you don't want to go that full route, we'll also have the option of just show up at the Capitol on excuse me here. Just show up at the Capitol on Wednesday, the 19th. And let us know where you're coming, and we'll have a name tag for you. You can just hang out at the Capitol, visit legislators in the committees, and we'll if we can have a group of township officers come into the floor session, we'll get recognized by the speaker or the president of the whichever body we visit, and let everybody know that township officers are in the building. So either way you want to do it.
Right. Well, and I'm on a lot of boards too, and I would like to thank all you gentlemen here who do this late in the evening. Yeah, state officers and attorneys and all the time you put forth, and I want to thank you on behalf of all of us for what you contribute and help. Thank you.
We appreciate that. Thank you very much for that. Well, if that's all
Is my mic
anybody's
working
got,
yet?
we'll call it an evening then. Thank you for joining us tonight.
999.
Yep. Thank you everyone for attending. You can check the calendar next month and tune in next month on the Zoom as well. So thank you again.